Good morning, dear Dharma friends. How comforting it is to come here. Come here to the Dharma Hall and see you. I've taught a lot of retreats in my lifetime. I don't know, maybe over 150, I don't know, a lot. And one of the things I really like to do, I don't do it all the time, but I like to get to the Dharma Hall in the morning before anybody else. And to then be present as life enters the room. All that waking up that happened, and bathing and brushing teeth and bathroom functions. And then we all gather together to do something so beautiful. So profoundly nourishing. And over the years, the morning ritual has changed for me. I commonly do a 45-minute sitting, during which I give further instructions from the Satipatthana Sutra, the teachings on mindfulness. The developmental process of that, I give another step, usually in the morning. And then we sit for 45 minutes, and then we get up and very mindfully dance for 45 minutes. And then there's breakfast, and the day is lunch. It's such a lovely ritual. And I so look forward to having the chance to be in person to do that again. So it's morning here. Actually, I have the blinds closed, so I can't really tell what's happening outside. This is a little poem about anicca, impermanence. I'd forgotten about it. I just discovered it again this morning. It's by someone called Linda Pastan, to a daughter leaving home. When I taught you at 8 to ride a bicycle, loping along beside you as you wobbled away on 2 round wheels, my own mouth rounding in surprise when you pulled ahead down the curved path of the park. I kept waiting for the thud of your crash as I sprinted to catch up, while you grew smaller, more breakable with distance, pumping for your life, screaming with laughter, the hair flapping behind you like a handkerchief, waving goodbye. When I taught you at 8 to ride a bicycle, loping along beside you as you wobbled away on 2 round wheels, my own mouth rounding in surprise when you pulled ahead down the curved path of the park. I kept waiting for the thud of your crash as I sprinted to catch up, while you grew smaller, more breakable with distance, pumping for your life, screaming with laughter, the hair flapping behind you like a handkerchief, waving goodbye. Way back in 1990, when I was finishing my social work degree, I had an internship at Reed College for a year. And I had a colleague, another member of the social work class, who was also doing her internship there. And we were at different life stages. Her children were leaving home, and mine were very young. And she was talking about the pain of their absence, and it all seemed so far into the future. And now it's a decade. I'm watching Jennifer go through that, the launching of her children, really our children now. as they gather steam and head off into the world. It's quite remarkable. And it's so much a part of the truth of anicca, impermanence. Every relationship has a beginning, many transformations, and then an ending. And so let's honor the refuges. Where in the midst of a world of so much change can we take refuge? Repeating this little song every morning, it's become, it's deepening for me what it means, and the actual recitation of it, it's become more like a prayer for me. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. I want to show you this actually. It's hard to see through the little window of this, but this is a one-of-a-kind guitar, and I purchased it with some money that I received from Ruth upon her death. I wanted something enduring, and when I was go down and visit her in the last few years of her life, I was just starting to play, and really just a beginner, and I would play very rudimentary little songs, and we would sing together. And she would play air piano. It was really fun. Those were very precious times there near the end. So let's sit, dear friends. Let's sit around the campfire of the Dharma. Not so long ago, we were asleep. And then suddenly the world appeared in consciousness again. Just like every moment the world appears unpredictably. We have our predictions, but then they often don't turn out that way, do they? So let's notice the body. It appears to us when we wake up. It's alive, it makes contact with the chair. Take a look around. Pay attention to some part or parts of your body that you don't normally attend to. Maybe your left knee or your left elbow. Maybe your right ear. It is remarkable that we can direct this awareness in that way. We take it for granted. It's the water we swim in, but it is a monumental phenomenon. And of course, there's breathing. This old friend, there since the moment of our birth, notice how the breath comes and goes in its own rhythmic pattern. Sometimes a breath is deep. Sometimes it's shallow. Notice how it breathes all by itself. It's one of those boundary phenomena. It can be done intentionally, and mostly it breathes itself. It has a beginning, a middle, and an ending. The same is true for the thoughts that arise. Pleasant thoughts, unpleasant thoughts, worried thoughts, planning thoughts, happy thoughts. They all have their beginning, lifetime, and then disappearing. And we practice with the intention of mindfulness and concentration. And also with the intention of profound acceptance and love. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am right now. This right now is the only time that ever exists. A moment of accepting right now is wakefulness. Often we'll discover that there's some hurting happening in the body or in the emotions, in the mind. Whenever I discover hurting, discomfort, dukkha, suffering, I intend to turn toward it, to open, with as much compassion as I can possibly imagine. With these two aspirations, our meditation ceases being self-improvement and it becomes instead simply being. this moment, right now, is like this. Ajahn Chah, the great Thai forest master, Jack Cornfield's teacher, taught that any time you wanted to bring your practice into perfect balance, just remember this moment is like this. This is how it is. This is how the mood is. This is how the mind is. There is mindfulness or there isn't. There's concentration or not. The mind is in ease or it's toiling. It's simply like this. And we use the coming and going of the breath as an aid, a strategy for helping us to awaken to how it is right now. And every breath is a beginning. Sometimes the mind becomes so quiet and clear that the very beginning of a thought is noticed before it even really fully forms. And then it disappears. Other times there's a tidal wave of thoughts. Maybe there's some emotional issue which is propelling them. And then we don't see the beginning of it, and we don't notice it until it's been happening for quite some time, maybe minutes. And then that mysterious awakening happens. Quite suddenly, there is illumination. Mindfulness lights up the scene, and it becomes apparent that the trance state has dominated for a while. That thought, those emotions, the conclusions that that set of thoughts comes to. And then there's a moment of freedom during which we can choose to go back to the breath. And we reestablish mindfulness of breathing. And it may last a while, or it may last a tenth of a second. Both phenomena are worthy of observation and are fine practice. This moment is like this. Sometimes in meditation, something will become physically painful. Of course, if it's coming from something that will hurt the body, then of course we mindfully change position. But it could be just an itch or an ache. In which case we notice it as something that, quote, interrupts our concentration. Something which is unpleasant. We come back to the breath a few times. But if that pain persists, with great clarity of intention, we turn toward that pain or that suffering with great compassion and embrace it. Notice any defensive holding or tightening up around the pain. Notice any story that comes with it. How it's my fault, I caused it, or someone else caused it, or it shouldn't be here. And softening into it. Notice any disliking of it. And pain is a perfect place to experiment with what causes the suffering. Is it the sensation of pain, or is it the interpretation of it? Is it the reactivity to it? This is the moment in which life happens. There is only one moment. The conditions change. Sometimes this moment consists of sitting here like this. Sometimes it's putting toast in the toaster, taking a shower, driving the car. We practice in this powerful way together in order to strengthen our ability to be mindful, to observe the mysterious arisings of the world, from the moment we waken in the morning till the moment we go to sleep at night. There's a beautiful term attributed to Jesus, the aspiration to be in the world, but not of it. So we bring love and compassion and awareness, patience, equanimity, tranquility, humility to every moment. And we practice, of course, in community. We live in community. We have our family and friends and greater community, nation, ultimately 7 billion humans, all with the same longings and needs. We have different strategies trying to fulfill these needs of security, and respect, and enough food, and so on. So let us remember to love ourselves, starting here. Maybe with the great I love you mantra and your name at the end. Is there something you'd like to say to yourself today, this moment, from your deepest wisdom? And then directing your love outward to someone it's easy to love, to a pet, the Buddhists often speak of the practice of sharing merit. May this person share in the merits of my practice. May all of the goodness that came from this practice in this moment be shared with this other person. And pick another person, a friend. Surround them with loving energy. Imagine them being touched right now. Maybe not knowing quite why they feel good, but... And now let's extend this to a neutral person, someone you don't know well, maybe a neighbor across the street, somebody at the bank. And then to someone you think of as them the enemy, them the one we want to cast out of our hearts. This can be harder. But we remember, no matter how much this person is manifesting behaviors and beliefs we don't agree with, they are going to die. They are hurting. And they need love. And so extending this wish of all beings sharing in our merits now to all beings. To our friends of the air, those who live in the trees, those who live on the ground, those who burrow in the trees, those who live underground, to the great flocks of geese, to the fish in the oceans, to the plankton, the whales. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. And now noticing the body that sits here and touches the chair. The life in the knees and the elbows and the hands and fingers. It's alive, isn't it? It's nothing but life. The life of the face, the cheeks, the lips, the nose, the eyes. Feel the life in your eyes. And then noticing the intention to let the eyes open. And then make whatever effort is necessary to lift the eyelids and see. And then we can see the particulars of our little community of practice. It's so wonderfully familiar, isn't it? So I don't think I have anything more to say, but maybe you do. One thing I haven't suggested that could be part of our group is if you have any needs that the group could fulfill, we could be of support to one another that way. There's people at PIMC I haven't seen in a long time. Every now and then it occurs to me, I should call that person. We sure do need each other a lot at different times. So anything you have to share, please unmute, and we will be yours. We are yours. Hi, Kat.
Hi. I have a little sweetness to share from the trenches of early childhood rearing. Yesterday I took my children to the beach, and they had been absolutely feral to each other the entire weekend, and suddenly they transformed into like beautiful, loving siblings. And while I was there, I was listening to a Jack Kornfield audiobook. And so as we get in the car to go home, the book starts playing on the speakers, and my 5-year-old says, and I quote, "Oh, heavens no, mother, turn it off." Direct quote, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I did, and we put on music, and then very soon they both fell asleep. And so I put the audiobook back on, and about 20 minutes later, my little one, who's 3, says, I hear this very self-satisfied voice saying, "Mama, I know who that is. I know who's talking." And I said, "Oh, really? Who's that?" And he goes, "It's Robin," he is positive your name is Robin, even though his middle name is Robert, so I don't really understand why he doesn't grasp this, but he's positive you're Robin. I said, "No, it's not. This is someone named Jack Kornfield." And he said, "But Mama, he said Sangha." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And he said, "Okay, Mama, what's Sangha?" And I said, "It means community." And he said, "Okay, what's community?" And so I was about to give him a more textbook definition, and instead what came out of my mouth, it was just, "It's family, but bigger." And he said, "Oh, so you're my Sangha."
No.
I know. And so then he asked if we could sing the song that we always start the practice with. And it was just early raising little kids, or kids, I don't know, I only have raised little kids, has felt so often so defeating and an exercise in humility. And this was such a moment of just pure sweetness. And it was so beautiful. And it has been also such an exercise that I've learned in being here, of looking at my children and saying, even when they're horrible, which they can be truly feel horrible, looking at them and saying, "And you are only here for a second," and returning to that and being with that has really added so much preciousness to the everyday. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very beautiful. Yeah. Oh, Buddha has decided it's time to get out, come and visit. Oh. Hi. doesn't hear me, of course. He's totally deaf. Hi, Budo.
Robert, this is Pamela.
Hello, Pamela.
I have two things. One is a great joy, and that is that last night I went to a concert at a friend's farm, and it was a benefit concert for the victims of the Canyon Fire, and one of the singers actually lost her house, and she was there, and the benefit raised, we found out last night, the benefit raised over $7,000 for, and it was a small, it was just friends. It's a relatively small group of people, and I was just so touched by the generosity of everyone who was there. And the other thing is that tomorrow, it looks like I'm going to have to put one of my cats down, and not the one that usually wanders by, but her sister. And she's only 3, but she has a disease that causes the bone, her bone to come through the skin. The bone keeps growing, and it has come through the skin now. So we've known it for about a year and had set the intention that when the bone came through the skin that we would put her down, because nothing but pain would follow. So we're probably doing that tomorrow, and it's really tough right now. Mm-hmm. So it just sort of struck me how life deals so many different expressions all at once, and it's up and down, and I'm really grateful for the practice. It's been really helpful to help me see that and not get caught up in it. So that's it, just sadness and joy.
Thank you. So tomorrow you have a precious opportunity of being present and really witnessing parting. Potent.
I'll be there holding her.
I presumed. Lucky her.
Yeah.
My wife Jennifer is a veterinarian and has performed many, many, many euthanasias. No convenience euthanasias, but when it's time. And she has often said we're much kinder to our animals than we are to each other around the end of life. It's true. So, thanks for sharing that.
This is Jim in my basement.
Hello, Jim in the basement.
I've got a question for you.
It's kind of wimpy you're not outside, Jim.
No, I'm not in Hood River. I'm in the basement.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I need to go back there. But the question is about turning towards the pain. And this is how I see things. You were having us focus on our left elbow, as an example, and my left elbow's never bothered me, but I was certainly able to be very aware of the left elbow. And in other times, I've actually had physical pain, my knee hurt, let's say, and I've been able to turn my attention towards the pain because I know where my knee is, and so on. But then when it's emotional pain, then and you turn yourself towards the emotional pain, are you turning your attention to a thought, or is it invariably if you're having emotional pain, there's some part of your body that's tense, a headache, a stomach ache, a stiff neck, and then you turn your attention to the headache or the stiff neck, or do you turn your attention to just a thought?
In general, it's a great question, helpful. In general, the task is to take as your meditation object the body. It's called the body base of the emotion, because all emotions have physical. They are bioelectronic. They reside in the body, and so to find that. And sometimes it's very difficult for people to do that. We've been so trained to live in the mind and not in the body. But if you can find even a trace of it, then you spend a little time there and maybe longer, and much will be revealed. And also, not tangentially, but in parallel, keeping awareness of what thoughts are present is very helpful as well. Because that's part of the unraveling of the suffering of it, is to notice the thoughts, to notice the disliking, and to notice the actual sensations of the emotion. I have you'll get a kick out of this with your medical background. I've had I don't know, 4 heart angiograms and a stent way back when, 10 years ago. And when they put the catheter up in there and it comes over the aortic arch, and then they get to the right spot, and then I asked them not to be anesthetized so I could be really conscious for it. And when they inject the dye, there's this horrible feeling in the heart of heartbreak. It's like, oh, I'm alone. She left me. Oh, but what's really remarkable is it lasts about 3 seconds. But the emotion is there. The heart is a feeling organ. And I found that very interesting.
Thank you.
When he put the stent in, he blocked the circumflex artery for a little while. And I got to the very edge of where it was like the beginning of heart attack feeling. And I was thinking, man, and we were set up that I could say pain meds and that they would, hit me up with something. I got right to the edge, and then he released the thing. But that was interesting too.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking such delight in seeing you in this moment. The sun is up.
Robert, or maybe your name is Robin. You never knew it. Anyway, I would like to invite everybody tonight to the guest house at 7 o'clock. I'll be reading a little Rumi and a little bit of Stephen Levine, working through the gradual awakening. So you're all invited. Drop on by. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. That's a really fine book. I'd kind of forgotten about it. Until I ran into Gunaratana's book, Mindfulness in Plain English. That was always my first recommended book, it's A Gradual Awakening. He was a nice fellow, Stephen Levine. Stephen and Andrea, on one of the retreats I was on with them, they told the story of their meeting, and she was living at Lama Foundation, and in came Stephen to do his thing, and she wasn't all that impressed. She liked him, but she wasn't all that impressed then, and she went to her bunk one time during the retreat, and there was a note on it from him that said something. There's a beginning, and then it went on, and I want to marry you and support you and your children for the rest of our lives. Strange meetings. And they were never apart. They didn't travel separately. They just became this Stephen and Andrea unit until he died. I haven't heard of her since then, but there's marvelous teachings from Stephen and Andrea. I think it's called, I wonder if it's still up, LevineTalks.com. And I subscribed years ago, and it was their couch talks. They were living high in the mountains in New Mexico, and they created these talks that were then broadcast. Quite lovely. They lived right on the edge with people. They talked with dying people for years. They were 24 hours a day. They were there with people. It was quite something. Oh, there's someone who put it up, LevineTalks.com. It still exists, apparently. Anyone else sitting with something that would be helpful to share? If we could fax tomatoes to you, we'd like to do so. Our tomatoes have been so prolific. Probably 200 pounds. And Jen's been looking on in cookbooks. What else can we do with these stupid things? We have tomato chutney, we have tomato relish, we have tomato sauce, tomato quiche.
Have you tried tomatoes?
We haven't tried drying them. We haven't.
That's something that we do. You just slice them thin and put them in a colander or something so they drain a little bit.
Yeah.
So and shake the juice with this nice drink, and then put them on a sheet, like a cookie sheet. And put them in the oven at the lowest possible temperature the oven will go on. And try it, and then largest ingredient in pasta, eggs, all kinds of dishes. And then you reduce a bushel of tomatoes into, this thing.
Right. Great.
And it smells good like food.
I'll bet it does. Thank you. So last call, anybody have something to share? Please be generous with yourself and with us. Cat's got a recipe here. Well, let's sing our way out of here. Shall we do may all beings be happy? May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Happy trails, dear Dharma friends. See you soon. See you tomorrow. As they say, what is it? Buddha willing and the creek don't rise. See you tomorrow.
Start today. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for my little house. My luxurious little house.
That recipe is great because it's incredibly easy and it freezes beautifully. So if you have room in your freezer.
Great. Look. Thank you.
Very low effort for very high reward.
Yay. This morning I already cut 4 or 5 pints of little tomatoes, the little ones, in half. And they would be put on a baking sheet and anointed with various things and then dried down. And then we've got a bunch of those trays of that already frozen. We're set for lycopene for the winter.
Yes, you certainly are. And vitamin C. You'll be great.
Great.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Goodbye, dear friends. Take care. Goodbye, friends on Facebook and YouTube. I hope you are well today.